Wait a few more minutes or
No, I reckon we should go.
I'll make mine last extra long.
You what?
I'll make it last extra long.
You can speak very sweet.
Testing.
I know, that's what we're here.
Oh, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh, you've always wanted to say that, haven't you? 1, 2, 3.
No, I just catch it. It always makes it like so much longer, I think, to walk down here. I like to catch it. All right.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming, making it out today on this Sunday. I'll try and speak loud and slow for anyone that's coming past. So, I'm very pleased that more and more people are waking up and realising what is being done to children in the name of gender ideology and precisely gender affirming care, which more and more people are seeing is anything but care. It's absolute and total abuse. The recent Spotlight documentary on detransitioners has reached a lot of people. It showed the young girls struggling with their self-image, often autistic young girls trying to find a way to escape a world that sexualizes them, a world so pornified. Young girls who have been drawn into a destructive ideology which promises them a way out from the pain and mental anguish they feel about their sex bodies. An ideology that says, hey, we can change you from an unhappy and anxious girl to a confident man. They're offered hormone treatment and surgical interventions which rob them of healthy body parts and their fertility, all at an age far too young to be able to consent. I had a message from my mother-in-law. Oh my God, Leah, I can't believe it. I had no idea how bad this problem was. I didn't know what they were doing to the children. Now, this lady isn't on Twitter and she's hardly online. Most regular people aren't. So, to have heard about this from her was, in my mind, a big step forward to know that the amount of normal people that are hearing about this now, especially considering how biased and silent the ABC has been, it's a big step forward. And there's a lot of people that hadn't really realised that girls are literally being sacrificed at the altar of gender ideology and having their lives completely ruined. So there's a petition to have the episode removed. When I last looked this morning, the petition had 45,000 signatures. So why do trans activists demand the voices of the children so badly, physically and emotionally and irreversibly harmed? Why do they want them silenced? Well, for the adult men, sexually deviant adult men, they rely on the idea of the trans child as an integral and essential part of the ideology for them to legitimise their own selfish cause. Without the born in the wrong body fallacy, their whole ideology comes crashing down. The trans child is a completely new phenomenon, totally unheard of until a few years ago. In response to the Spotlight documentary, Brisbane transsexuals and transvestite privilege advocates, such as Aidan Sargent, gave not 1 second of compassion for the girls who have been irreversibly harmed. Instead, he called out to all of his transsexual and transvestite friends and allies, and of course made it all about the men's feelings. He called the brave doctors who risked their livelihood speaking out crackpots and grifters, and said about the transsexual and transvestite community, we are strong. Because you see, they never really care about the children involved in all of this, unless the children being sacrificed are benefiting them. And it's hard, maybe even impossible for people like ourselves to imagine the mindset of the surgeons who are willing to amputate teenagers' healthy breasts. So we went to a plastic surgery recently to protest outside, specifically Valley Plastic Surgery in Fortitude Valley, who told me that they would amputate the healthy breasts off of 13-year-old girls. And it was absolutely horrifying to imagine what goes on behind those doors. The surgeons, who are perfectly willing and happy to lay a teenage girl down on their operating table and surgically remove her breasts, with only a note from a therapist 3 months prior and $15,000. The writer and journalist, the brilliant Jennifer Billick, who has an awesome blog called the 11th Hour blog, covering the synthetic sexual identities phenomenon, also known as transgender, says, "Knives and men, they've been cutting girls up for a long time, shutting our mouths, demanding we change our attitude, our appearance, slicing us apart piece by piece. Submit or be punished." And it's true that when we imagine these horrors being inflicted on young girls and women, we think of the male surgeons. Feminists have argued for decades that plastic surgery is driven by societal standards of beauty that are often sexist, ageist, and rooted in patriarchal values. They've argued that these standards put pressure on women to undergo procedures to conform to an ideal image, and the men who perform and promote these surgeries have been criticised for perpetuating these standards. Surgeons have always taken advantage of women's insecurities for profit, but now it's more and more common to see female surgeons taking the knife to these young girls. It seems like we are now living in a time where young girls are just walking money bags. Each stage of their life is up for grabs. Someone is ready and waiting to make profit from their puberty, their adolescence, their hormones, their body parts, their fertility. It's all about business. When these surgeries are performed on young girls too naive and immature to properly consent, what is known as top surgery or double mastectomies, the surgeons are often not upfront about the risks. And you can look at the Reddit group, Top Surgery, for hundreds of examples of young girls unhappy with their botched results, young girls with nobody but a group of online strangers to confide in. Often the surgeon will wash his or her hands of the girl, and she has to live with the awful scarring and physical and emotional pain. So thank you to everybody who's come out today in support of trying to make people aware of this destructiveness, gender ideology madness, and to try and stop and slow down the barbaric and brutal experiments on children. Thank you.
Tough act to follow. I was reading an article this morning about an 8-year-old boy in primary school in London. He is facing expulsion from the school if he doesn't cut off his beautiful long hair, despite girls being permitted to have long hair. It's just insane. It reminds me of being in primary school myself and petitioning the school principal to allow girls like me to wear shorts instead of a skirt in the school uniform. We wanted more coverage so that we could be more comfortable playing sport, mucking around like young kids, boys and girls, like to do. The petition failed. These outdated sexist gender stereotypes form the basis of gender identity ideology. Men performing femininity or sexist feminine stereotypes, women performing masculinity or outdated sexist ideas of what it means to be a man. And these harmful, regressive ideas are being forced upon innocent kids in worse ways than I just described, ways that are permanently changing these young people's bodies and futures, as was exposed on Spotlight on Channel 7 last week. And a huge thank you must go to journalist Liam Bartlett and the team on that program. One of the most disturbing trends we are witnessing is ill-informed, often homophobic or Munchausen by proxy parents who are pushing these insane ideas onto impressionable children. Now known as factitious disorder imposed on another, Munchausen by proxy is a disorder of deception. It affects a primary caregiver. They gain attention by seeking medical help for exaggerated or made-up symptoms of a child in their care. So think Susie Green from Mermaids or Jazz Jennings, Monster of a Mother, Jeanette. Telling a girl she must in fact be a boy if she isn't girly enough, and the same for boys, confusing the child about reality and the facts of biology. Then with very little investigation into comorbidities such as mental health problems, trauma, medical experts are prescribing these kids dangerous experimental drugs to interfere with their natural puberty and body development, causing irreversible changes, not to mention the under-researched negative effects of on their growing bones or cognition. And we know most of these confused kids continue onto wrong sex hormones and body-modifying surgeries. In males, crafting a vagina, a hole, a gaping wound, a wound that needs to be continually dilated to stop it from closing up. And in females, using huge skin grafts from their thigh or forearm to make a pretend penis. It's Frankensteinian, if that's a word. Permanently impairing the individual's sexual function and potentially sterilising them. Yes, it is deception. It's nothing short of child abuse. And right now we also have unethical medical professionals pushing these controversial treatments, reinforced by laws which demand gender affirmation. Freelance journalist Virginia Tapscott wrote an excellent article this week in The Australian, and she says it much better than I can. Pathologising a child's gender identity when it does not match their biological sex seems counterproductive and harmful to prevailing efforts to dismantle gender stereotypes. Clear feminine or masculine identities that match the biological sex may be reassuring for some parents, but this isn't the reality of humans as individual beings. Women and girls can be masculine in many ways, just as men and boys can have femininities. Invasive treatments to augment our biology reinforce rigid gender stereotypes rather than promoting acceptance of individuals and gender fluidity. She goes on to say, any inner struggle is isolating. Inclusion is crucial for supporting people in all their experiences. Supporting gender diverse children and adults in their preferences or behaviours that don't match the gender stereotype may place less pressure on them to undergo invasive treatment to fit a particular gender stereotype. In the same way that we once thought homosexuality was a mental illness, assisting children to get a sex change is just another way of pathologising gender non-conformity. Blocking puberty is a new age conversion therapy in the most literal sense.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, Angela got it.
I'll wait. I'm sorry, but no, Angela got it first. All right. Except that your point of view is the ones that you...
Okay, I just want to mention former Prime Minister Julia Gillard. I have always admired her, but she came out the other day and made the comment when someone asked her what a woman is, that it's a gotcha parlour game. Now, either Julia has completely lost touch with the women of this country, or she does not want to stick her head above the parapet because of the flack that she'll receive. And if that is the case, then she's a coward and she's a profound disappointment, I'm sorry to say. Regarding the Spotlight program, I've spoken to quite a few people during the week who watched it, who also spoke to various family and friends who also watched it, who are completely shocked that this is going on and continues to go on. The harm done to children and to women. They just couldn't believe it. So the tentacles of truth are getting out there. Also that the Virginia Tapscott articles in this weekend's Australian. And she details that she spoke to her mother when she was 7 and said, I want to be a boy. And her mother just said, well, why? And she said, because boys are cool. And the mother just said, well, girls are cool too. But she let her cut her hair, wear whatever she wanted, and that was all there was to it. She just continued as a normal child, went through puberty, and I think she's a mother of 4 now. If regards Spotlight, if Liam Bartlett and Channel 7 can resist the noisy minority that is coming for them, and it is a minority, could you speak to most people and they just go, well, yeah, that's just basic common sense. However, as regards my continuing sticker campaign, I'm going through a lot of stickers, but I got some really good ones too, so they keep taking them down, and now they put their own up, which is this baby pink, baby blue, white trans thing, and it says, you are loved, inferring that anything I put up is hateful. So, but I just laugh because it doesn't make sense. It's intellectually vacuous, and I just walk away laughing. So I'll keep going for as long as I can. That's it. Thanks.
I'm just going to talk about, since the last time we did Speaker's Corner, what Redux has found, and also Claire Chandler got up in front of the Senate the other day, and these are her words. In 2014, an Australian man was found guilty of repeatedly sexually abusing his 6-year-old daughter during access visits. This man, after being released from prison, repeatedly breached his sex offender reporting obligations. He then committed a serious sexual assault on a woman and was convicted yet again. But the second time he was convicted and sentenced, the Australian media and court he was convicted by called him a woman and placed him in a women's prison. This is a sexually perverse man's dream, to be placed in an incarcerated setting with women. This is what the government is encouraging. From Redux, so this is just in the last month. A man who identifies as a Muslim woman files legal claim to retrieve his testicles from his ex-boyfriend's fridge. Sex education group recommends daycares create sexual games and new exploration rooms for toddlers. In Norway, a male student changes gender to gain admission to an esteemed university of science and technology program which prioritised women. He said he was a woman, and he said it was about as easy as switching mobile plans to do that. In Spain, trans-identified male prisoner transferred to women's prison, impregnated female inmate. This prisoner was a violent male convict who was transferred after he claimed he was a woman. He did not undergo any surgery or any hormone therapy. In the UK, trans-identifying male, pedophile, sentenced to 4 years in prison after being caught in 2 separate predator stings. Now this is Shannon Fentiman and the Queensland Labor government who are saying there's no evidence of any man that identifies as a woman committing any crime or taking anything else away from a woman.
Perjury.
In Germany, pedophiles profiled sympathetically on national public radio. They were actually celebrated. In Wales, pedophile announces transition after being caught for a second time with horrific child abuse images. In Canada, a male powerlifter sets new women's world record during 2023 at the Canadian Championships. He lifted more than 200 kilograms than the strongest woman in the competition. In the UK, person who identifies as a woman arrested on charges of indecent exposure, possessing child sexual abuse imagery. UK, a prominent trans activist, a trans-identifying male known for having at least 2 women arrested for hate speech, was previously convicted of indecent assault on a 14-year-old boy and was a registered sex offender. And by us speaking the truth, police are actually taking anyone that speaks the truth and trying to prosecute them. In the USA, a trans-identifying male charged with murder in the stabbing of a homeless woman. They're really harmless, these men who say they're women, aren't they? Mexico, female inmate sexually assaulted by trans-identifying male at women's prison. Male cyclist, 2 men, take 2 top spots at a female races in Washington and Switzerland. In the UK again, social media user warned by police after expressing concerns about a man who dresses like a baby who speaks to children in schools. He has been invited into schools to speak to children about autism. In the US, another trans-identifying male. We're all the trans-identifying females that believe they're men. Why do we never hear about them?
Men are the problem. Men.
Yeah. So social media use, I've said that. So in the US, trans-identifying male coach used girls' locker room to undress multiple times. This was kept quiet by the school district. He sparked fear and discomfort for the girls. He had been hired as a man in 2018 but declared he was transgender in 2022. He would strip down to bra and panties in the girls' locker rooms when the girls were changing. Norway. Transgender doctor, another male who says he's a female, had his licence suspended, but he won a Feminist Achievement Award.
In the UK, a woman was interrogated by police after taking a photo of a gender-critical sticker. So all you have to do is show an interest in a sticker. In the US, a perverted male, a trans-identifying male, was admitted to a women's sorority. He would have an erection while watching women undress. 6 female members of the sorority took the matter to court and lost. Leading academic journal publishes paper claiming sexual relations between children and adults are not harmful, and that these pedophiles are unjustly hindered by a cancel culture. So it's not they are the problem, we're the problem. In the UK, transgender pedophile spared jail after being found in possession of child sex abuse material. As he now declares that he identifies as a woman and calls himself Soapy, he will have open access to women and children's spaces. In the UK again, trans activist primary school teacher arrested after alleged rape of a young girl under 13. In the USA, another trans-identified male cycling duo takes first place in women's category. UK, transgender group hosting nude camps, BDSM workshops led by consultant at a charity that teaches gender ideology to children. Switzerland, trans-identifying male faces charges of sexually assaulting stepdaughters while wearing lingerie. In the UK, trans-identified male sex offender with 87 convictions sexually assaulted 2 prison staff. So that's it. That's in the last month since we held a speaker's corner. So Shannon Fentiman, yeah, she's full of shit. So it's absolute bullshit that these predators aren't hiding under the label of trans. They're just using this trans ideology to gain access to women and children. So if that can happen in a month, what are we looking at in a year? And what other things haven't been reported? So this is probably the tip of the iceberg. So anyone else would like to speak?
Just say goodbye then. All right, thank you, Sue. Thank you for everyone for coming. Just want to say, yesterday we went to the Children's Hospital and we stood outside with our signs because we know that there's a gender clinic there that is silencing women and men, but there's the awesome Gillian Spencer has been not struck off, but suspended for raising concerns about the affirmation model and saying that children shouldn't be pumped full of hormones to stop their puberty. And she's been suspended for saying that. And we got a few, mostly positive comments, but we got one man shouting at us that we were homophobic. There is nothing more homophobic than this ideology that denies the existence of same-sex attraction. Absolutely nothing. These men are so angry with women like us who will not allow them into ours and our children's safe spaces. We are the ones that they go after, and we will be standing there stopping them forever, because there's nothing that will stop us from coming out here and doing this every month. More and more people coming and spreading the message of what is happening with this disgusting ideology. And Shannon Fentiman should be absolutely ashamed of herself. She's ignoring women who are telling her the issues, the problems, the research, the evidence of what is happening with these men who are pretending to be women, depraved men, and it's maddening, absolutely maddening. But we're never going to stop, and that's just all there is to it. All right, thank you everybody for coming. See you next time.
Unfortunately, we have to do this again until it. That worked really well.
How does the open stickers
That worked really well.
taking them around? Like you go at night? No, well, usually I'm